Is this another great clone of Naxos, or one that you should actually avoid? Ateeq from Nusuk. Let's talk about it today. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. It's also time for a review of yet another Naxos clone. Now, Naxos is one of my most favorite niche fragrances, and up until a few months ago, we didn't really have that many options when it comes to Middle Eastern clones of Naxos. We only had Vogue Elegante from the brand of Paris Corner, which has been around for a while, and it's a decently done clone, but I never really liked it that much because I never thought of it like smelling super close to the original fragrance. Well, luckily, more and more Middle Eastern brands are getting their sort of an attention onto Naxos. First we got Fertile Luna, then we had Ramat from the brand of Arabiat Prestige. Now we have Ateeq from Nusuk, we have Muharib from, Mason Asrar. Rayhaan are also coming up with their own clone of Naxos, so now we have choices, and that's a good thing, but it can be a little bit hard to navigate throughout those many choices nowadays. The next one in the lineup of Naxos clones that I'm ready to do my review on comes from the brand of Nusuk, and it's called Ateeq. And today I'm going to talk about my experience of using this fragrance. As usual, let's start by a very quick overlook at the packaging and the presentation. The fragrance comes packed up in this white colored box with this sort of rose gold accents. The important stuff here is that the bottle size is 100 milliliters and the concentration is supposedly extrait de parfum. This is how you open up the box. Inside you'll get a small a booklet that includes basic information about the fragrance. On the side of it you also get some of the notes that are used. And then this is the way that the bottle looks. It has a kind of interesting design that I dig, to be honest. One thing though that I don't like about the whole presentation is the fact that the top of my cap fell off immediately after I opened up the bottle, so quality control isn't the best, unfortunately, but that takes nothing away from the scent. Another great thing about this one is that it has a pressurized sprayer. It's slightly weaker than some other pressurized sprayers, but I'll take this one over a normal sprayer any time of the day. And now let's talk about the scent of Ateeq. As I said, this is heavily inspired by Naxos, and if you're familiar with the original scent, you'll immediately pick this thing up. But it's not identical, especially in the opening. Even on the dry down, this feels slightly different than the original one, but actually smells quite close. Now the opening of this one is sweet, feels just a hint boozy, but I think that's not down to a boozy note. It's more like perfumer's alcohol, which speaks to the quality of this scent, which is not like super high, but then it also has a low price tag. I'll talk about pricing a little bit later on. Opens up spicy, sweet, with a lot of vanillic and honey sweetness. Especially the honey sweetness is very pronounced with this one, and I think you can pick this one up even by looking at the bottle design, because this looks like a honeycomb or something like that, the bottle design. So they've sort of made the presence of the strong honey note known even by looking at the bottle design. It has a bit of citruses in the opening, a bit of that lavender, the tobacco is there, and also another interesting thing about this fragrance is that it has a bit of a floral touch. There's a jasmine note with this fragrance, which probably is the main difference between this one and the original one. And the jasmine note is actually, I can't say super strong, but it's definitely there, it's definitely present, and that's one of the twists of the original over the original scent profile. Now the citruses, they stick a bit compared to the original one, they stick out a little bit compared to the original one as well. Overall this feels like a more floral and slightly sharper version of Naxos in the opening. The more this dries down, the closer it gets to Naxos, because the dry down is mostly about the combination of still some of that lavender, the tobacco note, the vanilla note, which is not listed I think in the note breakdown, but it's definitely there, and the honey note. And on the dry down this sits a lot closer to Naxos, but still feels ever so slightly sweeter, like having a stronger honey note. It's like Naxos, but with a bit of a honey glaze on top of Naxos, like the easiest way to explain this one. So it's slightly sweeter, it's slightly stronger on the honey note compared to Naxos on the dry down, but the dry down definitely feels closer to the original scent compared to the opening. Overall, it's an interesting take on Naxos. that has good quality. It's not superb. Again, the opening, you'll definitely feel a bit of harshness from the jasmine. I don't think it's a very high quality of the jasmine note, and also the perfumer's alcohol can be felt in the first few minutes, but apart from that, the quality is actually very decent. Now, when it comes to performance, it's a good performing scent. In fact, it's been quite a good performance. Straight out of the box, this was giving me at least 8 hours of performance. Nowadays, probably closer to 9 hours. So it's a good performer. The projection is also pretty solid with this fragrance. So overall, this is one of the better performing Naxos clones that I personally have tried at this point in time. Price-wise, now, this probably really depends on where you live. I personally was able to get this fragrance for 28 euros, so around about $30. And if I had bought it a day earlier, I could have bought it at an even lower price, closer to 25 euros. At that price point, this is the cheapest clone of Naxos that I personally have in my collection at the current time. So I can forgive a bit of that roughness in the opening, a bit of the lower quality when it comes to the scent, of the presentation, the quality control. At that price point, if you're looking for a clone of Naxos at this point in time, apart from Vogue Elegante, you can't get a better price than Nusuk Ateeq. So at that price point, if you can get it, I think it's a pretty good deal. And versatility wise, because of the inclusion of the jasmine note and the slightly more honey sweetness on the dry down, this to me smells like a slightly more feminine take on Naxos itself. I've always found Naxos to be a unisex fragrance that leans a little bit to the masculine side. This one is like perfectly unisex because of the jasmine note and the added sweetness. They neutralize a little bit of that tobacco lavender combination that feels more masculine. So I find Ateeq to be perfectly unisex, and this is a fragrance that definitely works better than better in cold weather than in warm weather. Although I find this one to be slightly less versatile than the original one, because the original feels a little bit more airy, slightly less sweet. This, with the added sweetness, just feels like slightly more orientated towards the colder months of the year. But again, if you don't overspray this one, you can probably get away with this even in warm weather. And at the end of the video, just wanted to answer the question from the opening: is this a clone of Naxos that's worth checking out or not? In my opinion, yes, as long as you are okay with a couple of things. First of all is the fact that this is the cheapest clone of Naxos that I have, but the quality is also the lowest one. I'm not going to bash the fragrance for its quality because it's not bad. It's just lower than, let's say, Fertile Luna. It's lower than Aromat from Arabiat Prestige. It's lower than also Moharib from Maison Asrar, a fragrance that I've started testing. Probably we'll talk about it a little bit later this week, on this week, or maybe next week. So this is the cheapest clone of Naxos that I have, but it's also the lowest quality clone of Naxos that I have. But again, don't take that as a bad thing, because also, again, it's priced accordingly as well, and it's not bad when it comes to the quality. It just has the lowest quality out of all clones that I have. If you're okay with getting slightly lower quality, if you're okay with getting a Naxos scent profile with an added floral touch, with a little bit more sweetness, if you can get away with the fact, if you can forgive the fact that this in the opening has a bit of an alcohol vibe as well, then I think this is worth checking out, in my opinion. Again, simply because this is the cheapest clone of Naxos that you can get, and at the price that I got it, it costs around about less than 20% of the original scent, while still getting reasonably good quality and pretty good performance. So if you are okay with those things, definitely check out Ateeq. If you're not okay with those things, then look elsewhere. For example, Fertile Luna, Ramat, or Moharib from Maison Asrar. But overall, I've been actually quite enjoying Ateeq so far. And so guys, in today's video I reviewed yet another new clone of Xerjoff's Naxos that comes from the brand of Nusuk, and it's called Ateeq. And I tried to answer the question, is this a clone worth checking out? I hope that you found today's video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next video for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.